Volatile week ending with a major rally for the grain markets. Jerry Gidel is ready to comment everything that's going on in the commodities world. Right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So Jerry, how are you today? We had a major rally ending this week, especially for live cattle, but all the other commodities.
Well, it was what a choppy week it was. They came after only a 4 day trading thing after the holiday. Uh, they ended up weather-wise, not much rain was in the forecast here, and some heat was really building back in the plains. First, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday type situation. Then on Wednesday, we did end up having uh, some commentary from President Putin about uh, the whole scenario here on the grain corridor, and it got people concerned that there'd be some issues on that, where all of a sudden, he was unhappy with the fact that, to some extent, the grains were not really going to Africa and the Mid East more than it was more going to Europe. But I think it's all back to the issue of what's involved here with the corn that was really in the silos there in Odessa and other places out there in Ukraine. And that's, you got to get that out of the way so you can do other things. But I'm not sure that's really something he likes to hear. And then there was a meeting in Geneva where it seems that they were more cordial about the scenario back and forth. And then here we are on Friday, and at the same time that President Putin was complaining about the grain corridor, he was also complaining about the EU's idea that they was going to come together and cap their Russian oil and natural gas prices for the coming year. And he made another comment about that, and that started things out here and helped build some things back, because there is some minor connections between energy prices and grain prices, particularly in involving ethanol. Then you also have some things in the biodiesel world under soybean oil, and all those got things rolling. And bang, zoom, we started moving back up in a big way today. And then I think some other weather situations, both in South America and the U.S. here, really started helping the wheat out today in a big way, and that helped firm everything across the board.
Yes, how much do you think the weather in Argentina is impacting the markets?
Well, the statement that came out from one of the news sources that hit the trade today was that this is the the soil conditions down there are the lowest in moisture in 27 years. That will wake you up. And you hear that kind of news, that does end up having a big impact here on on the ideas. Now, to some extent, the wheat that's has already been has been seeded down there also had the same issues, and I gotta say that if it's they had one set of maybe a 10-day period out there or less where they'd got some moisture after they kind of struggled to get their wheat in, and that, but it hasn't really improved since then. So I don't know what the stage of that wheat is at this point. Interesting is one little tidbit that popped up, but they supposedly did send some flour to Brazil that was from GMO wheat, which is an interesting twist. Well, hopefully no one has three heads down there in Brazil, but I doubt that's going to be the case from there. But the whole issue there was the fact that I think people got their eyes opened again about the situation. There's some moisture, if you will, in Paraná and Mato Grosso do Sul, and that's happened here recently, which maybe be a slightly positive for some plantings in those areas. But the other part of it is the Mato Grosso, the major producing area, is still in their dry season. There doesn't seem to be any indications that that's changing. And then there's been a couple more world meteorology people. Japan was in here today talking about the fact that our La Nina is going to continue here into early 2023. And you put all that into this thing, and it really kind of bounced things around. Pretty surprising, right ahead of our report on Monday. But it's at this point, it really does point out the kind of nice edge we are at here in the worldwide situation, or on the the world supplies. If we don't have the grains coming out of the Black Sea, or if we have a problem in South America, or even in the U.S., our yields on this year's corn is not as good, or beans as expected. Things are gonna kind of tighten up very, very quickly. So, lots of people. One moment they're bearish because it might rain, and we do have some rains here, by the way, in the forecast for eastern Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, maybe Indiana, on Sunday night into maybe Tuesday, and that. And but the thing about it is that here we are. It's September, 9th, and I think this is a situation where all of a sudden the impact on corn is going to be modest at best. It might be just a little bit. It's going to be a benefit to beans if you get something substantial. To get a quarter of an inch, half an inch, not a big deal. They're talking about chances of 1 to 3 inches. We'll see where it falls and how much it happens, but that's the one thing that's kind of bouncing around here. That it'll be part of our Monday morning activity, depending on how much it rained and where it rained, will be setting the tone for the Sunday night trade.
And what are the major changes that you think are going to happen with respect to yields?
Well, it's pretty interesting this week when they finally got the uh, Reuters information out. They came up with 172.5 bushel yield. That's down, just for practical purposes, 3 bushels from the August number. And they were 51.5 on beans. That's only down 4/10 of a bushel. Um, I'm still at the 171, and also the 51.2 numbers on that. There's still also definitely some confusion going on as to how much adjustments we might see from the USDA on their harvested areas. On mid morning or so on Tuesday after the holiday, they issued a statement saying, well, I think we got enough information out of those delayed August prevent planting numbers, and that we might go ahead and make adjustments on harvested acres for corn and soybeans, and maybe some other ones too. But that was like, whoa, wait a second, that wasn't in our plans. And so everybody had to back up and postpone it for a day on their updates. I don't know that I had already anticipated that in my number to have a 300,000 more acres of beans. Now, there's not as many other people anticipating that. The trade average is only 77,000 from there. And actually, the corn number they have down 100,000 acres or so. I'm not sure I'm going to see that either. That's another twist of the thing. Just adds one more layer of uncertainty to this thing along the way. The twist of it is right now, though, I kind of feel like that a number that's in the near those averages, and that, considering the weather we've had up to this point in the central U.S., and particularly west of the Missouri River, that classic area we've been talking out there, South Dakota, uh, Nebraska, Kansas, and parts of western Iowa, that have really been under the gun. We never even had another shot of that 90 degrees this week. So that's the other major twist on it, on this thing, on what our output will be. The other portion always is what the S&Ds are. There's adjustments on those things back and forth, but right now, at least, the export totals are still being mixed up a little bit. We did get our number here for July, and they were slightly better than I was anticipating the Census Bureau statistics to be. But the other side of the coin is that the normal export sales that have been delayed here because of that computer issues and that. It looks like they're going to issue the catch up data on next Thursday, September 15th. So, to some extent, we've still got some unknowns as to what's going to happen on our demand side of things here. But on corn and soybeans, since we don't normally we'd have most of our statistics together on and anticipate what the USDA might or might not do, but we're not going to have that available.
Yes, and what are you watching next week?
Well, of course, that USDA numbers are going to be quite important. Again, the interesting thing about it is that I think if the numbers come in close to 172 uh, on the corn and the 51 and a half, everyone will kind of say, oh, that's not, they might have some liquidation for a bit, but I think there's a lot of people who say, oh, they're going to be lower in October. And the weather's, at this point, at least, the weather situation after this weekend rain event kind of picks back up with warmth and not much rain in the thing again. And don't this rain in around Lake Michigan that's really on the forecast for this weekend is not every place. There's not raining from Denver to Colorado, excuse me, to Columbus. So this is not going to be a rain that's going to major hit all areas. So I think that people have got to keep that in mind. From there, of course, the situation in the Black Sea is very, very interesting, and at this point, things are pretty volatile there, and something could. I don't know that people are trying to point out to Putin that things are going to get better potentially on his side of the ledger on exports of his grain and fertilizer. But right now, you never know at this juncture. So I think those are the two things that are probably going to be the big the big trendsetters, I should say, on where we're going here on these things for next week. The interesting twist on it is that we are still going to be in harvest here, so we could have an emotional reality here. In particular, if we took something up into the $7 to 7.25 area, that's going to be a tough zone up there on December corn, and that because that's really going to give a chance for some areas of the country to actually hit some more $7 values. So keep that in mind. The one thing that we've talked about earlier tonight was Argentina, and they came up with a novel idea how to get people to sell things. They changed their export, or excuse me, their soybean sales opportunities to a export peso at $200 instead of the current 140 relationship out there, and bang zoom, people decided to sell it in a big way. So I think that's the one thing we're going to see in both corn and beans here. On the beans side, I'd say the number out there is in that $15 or a little below $15 to a little over, and that is going to be important. Wheat, that's a really tricky one. I kind of feel like that the wheat side of this market is really could be vulnerable, particularly what's happened in Argentina and what's also happened here in the U.S. We're off to a very poor start here on our winter wheat crop plantings in the plains, and that's the big crop out there. We play lots of other wheat in the U.S., but that's the main one.
Yes, that's Jerry Gidel's crystal ball. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll see how. Hopefully, it's as clear as I hope, or it could. We don't need many clouds out there, do we?
Thank you.
Take care.